As you know, on Sunday night or Monday morning of every week, we post a new expository semiotics explaining why we would choose which lectionary readings. But in these readings, our dream is, and our desire is, to help you read the signs and fondle the details and spot the seminal metaphors, the condensed signs and the stories that are key for preaching to a digital culture. So strap on your seatbelt and join us as we prospect our passages for today. We're now at the third Sunday in Lent. These are the lectionary passages for this Sunday. First of all, Exodus, the 20th chapter, 10 Commandments, biggie. I was tempted, but then it seemed like, how do you do the 10 Commandments in one sitting, in one vlog? So Psalm 19, the heavens are telling the glory of God. The firmament proclaims God's handiwork. Day to day pours forth speech. Night to night declares God's knowledge. Wonderful, wonderful psalm. But we did a psalm last week. The John text is the story of what a friend of mine who teaches at Asbury New Testament, Ben Witherington, calls Jesus' temple tantrum, where he, as you all know, he drove out the sheep and the cattle and the money changers. They had turned the outer courtyard, the only place where Gentiles could pray, into a stockyard and a banking establishment. And Jesus was not happy with that. My house, he said, shall be a house of prayer for all people. The one I finally settled on is this incredible passage from 1 Corinthians, the first chapter, verses 18 to 25. And let me just read this to you I don't usually read all the passage, but I'm going to do it this week. For the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, the intelligence of the intelligent I will frustrate. I love that. The intelligence of the intelligent I will frustrate. Where is the wise person? Where is the teacher of the law? Where's the philosopher of this age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of the world? For since in the wisdom of God, the world through its wisdom did not know him, God was pleased through the foolishness of what was preached to save those who believe. Jews demand signs, Greeks look for wisdom, but we preach Christ crucified, a stumbling block to Jews, a foolishness to Gentiles. But to those whom God has called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ and the power of God and the wisdom of God. For the foolishness of God is wiser than human wisdom, and the weakness of God is stronger than human strength. God makes it clear in today's passage from 1 Corinthians that succinctly, the wisdom of the world is foolishness with God, and the wisdom of God and the gospel is, to the world, foolishness. In these 8 verses, the Greek word we translate as foolish is used 5 times. Now the Greek here, and I'm not happy with this translation of foolish. For the Greek is moros, M-O-R-O-S. We get the word moronic from it. So it really means, when we hear foolishness, it really means that in the eyes of the world, the gospel is mentally stupid. I mean, it is brainless. It makes no sense. Now, my favorite way of talking about it is crazy. That's my translation of moros, crazy. In fact, I wrote a whole book back in the year 2000, almost a decade earlier than Crazy Love, a book called Jesus Drives Me Crazy. It has the worst cover in all of human history of any book ever published. It's me standing, pouring out nuts, because I use this acronym, NUTS, never underestimate the Spirit, N-U-T-S. I'm here to drive you nuts with these vlogs. I'm driving you nuts. Never underestimate the Spirit. But it's me standing upside down, and to see it right, you got to turn it right side up. But the real right side up is upside down, and so it just drove everybody crazy. It didn't work. But it was my way of translating this word. In fact, I think the theme song of every Christian ought to be the Willie Nelson song that Patsy Cline made famous, Crazy. Crazy. Willie Nelson wrote it, one of the greatest songs, and can you imagine anybody singing it any better than Patsy Cline? Crazy. The gospel sounds crazy to the world. Or in Portland, it's called weird, but whatever the word you want to use, the problem is we aren't weird enough now. We aren't crazy enough. You can't rationalize the gospel. You can't make it make rational sense. By its very nature, it sounds moros. It sounds crazy. It sounds, you ready? Offensive. It makes no sense beyond that it offends the sensibilities. And now you go in this direction and you started preaching, if you will. My favorite text. Yeah, I tried to move away from verses, but I'm still stuck on one verse. Okay? It's a verse that, if you have to call it my favorite, maybe verse in all the Bible, it's 2 Corinthians 5:13. Let me give you the translation. If it seems we are crazy, it is to bring glory to God. If we are in our right minds, it is for your benefit. In other words, the Greek's a little convoluted here, but it really means you really don't know how crazy in love with Jesus I am. I'm trying not to show it because I don't want to scare you, but I am really crazy in love with Jesus. I love him with all my heart, and I'm trying to hold back because I don't want to scare you. If we're in our right minds, it's for your benefit. In other words, I'm trying to be as sensible as I can and rational as I can, but you have no idea how crazy in love with Jesus I am. Søren Kierkegaard, the great Danish theologian, and he's so important to me, I named my daughter after him. Christianity, quoting here, Christianity has taken a giant stride into the absurd. Remove from Christianity its ability to shock, and it is altogether destroyed. It then becomes a tiny, superficial thing, capable neither of inflicting deep wounds nor of healing them. It is when the absurd starts to sound reasonable that we should begin to worry. When we make the crazy rational, sensible, polite, that's when we've lost the gospel. In other words, maybe the problem with our churches and with the Christian discipleship today is that we're not being weird enough. We're not being crazy in love enough. We are making too much sense. We are not offending sensibilities of the culture enough. The cross is by definition an offense. No person in the first century would have written a salvation story to found a religion like the gospel story. Every part of it was offensive to the culture. I mean, that's why the earliest Christians, they were persecuted. You know why? First of all, they were called atheists. Yeah, our ancestors, the first century Christians, the ones that we love in the apostolic age, they were called by the culture atheists. You know why? Because the culture believed in many gods. They had a pantheon of gods. The Christians believed in one God. Well, then you're atheist because you don't believe in God. No, we believe in one God. Yeah, but you're atheist because you only believe in one. So we were called atheists. We were called cannibals. You know why we're called cannibals? Because we have this ritual where we talk about the body and the blood of Christ. And we take the bread, which is the body, and we consume the blood, which is the wine. And well, you all are cannibals. Then we were called immoral. You know why? Because we had these late night love feasts that took place at midnight. Well, that must be you all having orgies. So the Christians were called atheists, cannibals, immoral, and the ultimate was to take as the symbol of faith the cross, the symbol of capital punishment, and you're going to make that your salvation symbol. And so when we talk about crazy, we're not talking about crazy in this kind of the circular finger to the head way. It's not a laughing matter. It's a certifiable, vilifiable, perishable, persecutable offense. And that's why rational apologetics doesn't work. Because the gospel is not rational. It makes no logical sense that God would send his only begotten Son to empathize with us to the point of death on the cross. It is an offense. So that brings us to today. So how do we handle offense in today's culture? Today's, what do we call it? Cancel culture. The moment somebody says something somebody doesn't like, there is quickly a trigger call for accountability, which becomes, too often than not, a mob cry for blood. There's group shaming, there's call for mockery, there's call for all sorts of, as many cheap shots and red rags as you possibly can. What red rags do to a bull, we try and do to these people that have, quote, committed an offense. And so we immediately want to block them, unfriend them, mute them. We have all these buttons that we can push, and then we call for the mob boycott. I even saw, and this was somebody who was new to Twitter, but they said, if you aren't orthodox in your faith, don't follow me or just unfriend me. I mean, are you kidding? Oh, this is great for evangelism, by the way. Yeah. Now, many of us would say, oh, I'm not a part of cancel culture. And we would talk to one another about how toxic cancel culture is. And yet, sisters and brothers, we practice various forms of cancel culture all the time. And it affects our individual relationships. It contributes to the divided world that we live in now. People are talking more about it now because the very places that were known for not having cancel culture, the universities, are now some of the biggest proponents of it. And it's noticeable because the liberals have become notoriously illiberal, especially on these college campuses. But conservatives were the first to practice cancel culture. My mother, who was ordained in the, I call it the Marine Corps of Methodism, the Pilgrim Holiness Church, was canceled. Her ordination got canceled because when she married my liberal Free Methodist father, he gave her a wedding ring, just a very simple, it's a very simple band. And she bobbed her hair. In other words, she cut and curled it for the wedding. And she was brought up on charges of worldliness, and she was canceled. Her ordination was canceled. Then we got canceled because my father, the liberal Free Methodist, when I was 9 years of age, we got a devil's blinking box in our house, which was a TV. And so we got canceled. The whole Sweet family, not just the ordination got canceled like my mother, the whole Sweet family got canceled. We got banned by the church. Relatives, we couldn't even visit them because they banned us. They wouldn't even shun us. I mean, the cancel culture is not something new. I think of Amy Grant. Anybody remember what happened to Amy Grant when she made known that she and Gary Chapman were separating, and she was going to started dating Vince Gill? She got removed from the channels, from stations, radio stations, canceled her. Recording contracts canceled her. I mean, we are the church is the master of don't get on our high horse here. Oh, look how awful cancel culture is. We are the master of cancellations. The commencement address written by Anna Quindlen in 1999 for Villanova University in Pennsylvania was never given. Do you know why? Because she was no platform by conservatives. Oh, we can't have somebody like that, a liberal, giving a commencement address. I mean, are you kidding me? Stalin, perhaps the greatest expression of cancel culture. He was known for a slogan, no person, no problem. Cancel the person, cancel the problem. Now, I did a little research on this, and I found out that he actually didn't say this. This was a summary in a novel about Stalin's approach to life. It's called Children of the Arbat by Anatoly Rybakov. And they were talking about some execution of army officers, and Stalin's justification was death solves all the problems. No man, no problem. Cancel the person, cancel the problem. And that was Stalin's attitude. But canceling things you don't like, or canceling people you don't like, or disagreeing with you, it is not Jesus. So we have a fundamental problem here. How do we, as Jesus followers, live in a cancel culture, both of the left and of the right, that wants to cancel history? Well, the parts of history you don't like, erasing history is like removing your best teacher, because that's where you learn about what you shouldn't do, what you should have done. I mean, history teaches us things. And it's so not Jesus. It's so not Jesus. Jesus spent his life with canceled people. That's who he hung out with. People that the world canceled. People canceled by the culture of their day. Canceled people who lived on the margins. The poor, the outcast, the outsiders. In fact, the greatest symbol of cancel culture is the cross. Jesus was canceled by the cancel culture of his day. Cancel culture is not Jesus culture. It's not kingdom culture. It's not what I like to call Jubilee culture. The Jesus culture or kingdom culture is a Micah 6:8 culture. To do what? Do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly. Yes, it calls for justice, but it also calls for mercy. It calls for humility. Jesus doesn't cancel people. Jesus cancels sin. Oh, for 1,000 tongues to sing. He breaks the power of canceled sin. He sets the prisoner free. It doesn't say he cancels the spirit of conquered sin. This is this great Wesley hymn here. That's not good news. There's no joy or song in that. It says it means we have to conquer the power of sin and death ourselves. No, the cross cancels our sin. That's what Jesus did on the cross. He canceled the sin. And Jesus frees us from condemnation and cancellation as he sets the captive, that's you and me, free. So how do we live as Jesus followers in a cancel culture? On the right, on the left. Well, first of all, we love our enemies. So this was what Jesus taught. And it is actually the best of Judaism. We sit down at a table in front of our enemies, with our enemies. We don't join the mob. We love people. We listen to people. We follow people. We allow to friend people. We friend people who disagree with us. We learn from the people who hold us in contempt. That isn't going to be easy because that's, again, it involves loving our enemies. But this is the fundamental platform of Jesus. You love your enemies. So it even involves involving how do you live in a cancel culture? You even question the mob. You stand up to the mob and question it. Not just asking the mob questions, but standing up to them, challenging the mob. When Jesus stood up for the woman taken in adultery, remember John 8? Jesus asked the mob, okay, you're going to do this to her? Okay, let me just... He challenged them. Whoever's without sin, you pick up the first stone. Now, this story is much more complex than it appears, because you do have this passage in Deuteronomy 22:22 that everybody forgets about, that there's an equal penalty for the male and female. A woman taken in adultery is stoned, but the man who commits adultery with her, who is married, is also stoned. So Jesus is also saying, where's the man? You're going to stone the woman? Where's the man? Jesus' great questioning canceled the mob's canceling of her, because nobody dared pick up the first stone. Jesus also listened to those who were offensive and who were offending. He listened to the woman without judging her, without scolding her. He kept an open mind. Now, part of the thing, open mind. We don't have an open mind to the point where our brains fall out. And some people just, okay, I'm opening up to anything. I put my mind in neutral. No. But you host and the possibilities of looking at things from a different perspective, looking at life from even the perspective of those who don't like you and those who don't agree with you. And we need to keep our minds bathed in fresh air and breathing fresh air. Both a cancel culture is just sucking on the balloon, on its own balloon juice. It's just inhaling its own fumes, and you get drugging on the fumes of its own ideas. And no, this is not Jesus. And finally, Jesus responds with mercy and humility, and he restores justice to the situation. Notice I said justice, not judgment. So when we see something that makes our blood boil and our head roil, don't cancel that person. Pray for them. Open your heart to them. Open your mind to what they're trying to say. You never cancel the person. You never cancel the relationship. You cancel your anger. You cancel your haughtiness. You cancel your superiority. But you never cancel the person. That's how we survive one way in a cancel culture. I have a friend, colleague, one of my most favorite people in the world. His name is Daryl Ward. And on the 19th of February, he posted on his Facebook page a picture. And here's the picture. And if you look at it carefully, you will see what looks like a big boulder kind of floating in space. Now, there's nothing fake about this photo. We're talking about a world of deep fakes, okay? There's a Tom Cruise thing going around right now on TikTok where, no. And they can, through artificial intelligence, they can take things and make it, no, there's nothing fake about this. These are real trees. It's real sky or real blue. It's real soil. It's a real boulder. All real. The only problem is we're looking at it from the wrong perspective. And what looks like a floating boulder, if you turn it upside down and do topsy-turvy with it, suddenly, here's a boulder in a pond. And the trees are a reflection in the still water of what is on land above the soil. Sometimes life makes more sense from an upside-down perspective. And here's the larger picture of the same perspective. And what the gospel does is precisely this. Jesus says, this is the way the world looks at life, but I'm gonna reverse your perspective. You see, in my way of looking, in my wisdom, the last will be first. You want to find yourself, lose yourself. The world says, win, 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 win. Win, you're number one. But Jesus says, no, you get to be number one by being last. See, it all is upside down. Jesus forces us to turn topsy-turvy our view of the world. He turns the world upside down. Now, it hurts at first. I mean, this hurt for me when I first did this, because I'm so used to this, and it hurts and at first you have trouble seeing it. Actually, it doesn't come immediate. At least it didn't to me. I had to look at it a couple of times, and life is not what it seems or appears to be. There's much more to life than what first meets the eye and what appears. And you know what gives it away? You know what gives this away, that it's not real? It's the shadows. The shadows are not right. If you look carefully, the shadows aren't right. And the shadows give it away. The shadows of life are the first to warn us and to remind us, to reflect and to change our perspective, to reverse our way of looking at things, to see life through Jesus' eyes. The world thinks of winning as, and I'm quoting Pat Riley here in one of his books, his definition of winning. Pat Riley, the great basketball coach. From nobody to upstarts, from upstarts to contender, from winner to champion, from champion to dynasty. Okay. That's this. Jesus says, you know what winning is? From nobody to somebody, from somebody to everybody to everything, from everything to nothing, from nothing to nobody. The nobodies inherit the earth. As Simone Weil puts it, may God grant me to become nothing. Or in the words of the covenant prayer, first prayed by John Wesley, I'm no longer my own but thine. Put me to what you will. Rank me with whom you will. Put me to doing, put me to suffering. Let me be employed by thee, or laid aside for thee, exalted for thee, or brought low for thee. Let me be full, let me be empty, let me have all things, let me have nothing. I freely and heartily yield all things, in other words, all my control, to your pleasure, to your disposal. And now, O glorious and blessed God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, you are mine, I am yours, so be it. And the covenant which I have made on earth, let it be ratified in heaven. What does it mean to look at the world from a different perspective, from a clear and clean water perspective, from a divine perspective? A lot of life fakes you out when you look at it straight and not in the eyes of Jesus. In his little book, Where Jesus Drives Me Crazy, my upside down book, I end with a little confession. This is my covenant prayer, if you will, my covenant confession. So I'm going to end the vlog with this. Call me crazy, but I'm still crazy enough to believe that Jesus loves me. This I know, for the Bible tells me so. Oh, call me crazy, but I'm still crazy enough to believe that the Bible, yes, that's the book for me. Call me crazy, but I still believe that what can wash away my sin? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. Call me crazy, but I still believe that Jesus is the sweetest name I know. Call me crazy, but I still believe that I got a home in glory land that outshines the sun. Call me crazy, but I still believe that I've got the joy down in my heart. Where? Call me crazy. But I still believe that because he lives, I can face tomorrow. Call me crazy. But I still believe that be not dismayed, whate'er betide, God will take care of you. Call me crazy. But I still believe that soon and very soon, we're going to see the King. Call me crazy. But I still believe that surely the presence of the Lord is in this place and your place. Call me crazy. But I still believe that my hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. Call me crazy. But you know what? I still believe. He breaks the power of canceled sin. He sets the captive free. Call me crazy in a cancel culture. Semiotics is the art of angling, of turning things askew, upside down, inside out, cattywampus, sunny side up, over easy, scrambled, hard-boiled. We hope you enjoyed today's journey, but always remember, it's more important you prepare the preacher than you prepare the sermon.